everyone. Welcome to our first Connect LE podcast, where we're going to present to you information that you want to know about and that you need to know about. I'm Giovanni Rivera Huerta, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you the Honorable Mayor of the City of Lake Elsinore, Steve Manos. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Giovanni. It's a pleasure to be here. Very excited to go ahead and kick off the inaugural Connect LE. This is going to be great. We have with us today a couple of guests. To my left, we have our illustrious city manager, Jason Simpson. And to our right, we have the very long time president of the Chamber of Commerce, Kim Cousins.
So I hear you've been here for a very long time.
Long time, yes, sir.
So tell us a little bit about your long time.
Well, some would suggest I've crossed the Delaware, and that's not true. Or that I started the Chamber 75 years ago. That's not true. But I did move to Lake Elsinore in 1990, and I've been running the Chamber for 20 years.
And we're going to get a little bit into that later on, and also about the 75-year anniversary of the Chamber. I've been told you've been here every single one of those years, huh?
No.
In spirit, probably.
In spirit. Yeah. All right, Mayor. This is awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to be sitting here with you guys, especially because I'm the new kid on the block, if you will. Yeah. I've learned a lot about the city, but now it's our turn to learn about you and also where you come from and all the experiences that you've gone through while you've been here. Take us through that.
Oh, yeah. Well, my family moved here when I was 10 or 11 years old. We had moved all over the country before then and never really stuck in any place. My parents bought a home, and Lake Elsinore ended up this is my hometown. This is where I live and grew up. I was Machado Eagle and Terracotta Mustang, and was over at Elsinore High School for a little bit, and then but I finished my high school years at Temescal Canyon when it first opened. Became the first ASB president, first graduating class, and then a funny little side story is how they make people most likely succeed or best hair or whatnot. I said, well, for me it was most likely to become a politician, and that's real. That actually is in the yearbook, and they make a big deal about it during the reunions. So they kind of had my number a little bit. Raised a family, went about 12 years afterwards after graduating, and decided that I wanted to go ahead and contribute to the community. Had some pretty good success in business, and that's when we started running for office and paying close attention to local office.
You know what I was chosen for my senior year?
No, tell me.
I was chosen for best hair. They got that wrong. I tell you, they definitely got that wrong. But
should have got best smile.
Right. Well, that's very cool. So a lot of people ask, what drove you into politics? A lot of people say, well, nowadays maybe I don't want to be in politics, but it takes a special gift, if you will.
Yeah, well, I mean, for us, there seemed to be a lot of headlines that were coming from the elected bodies from beforehand. There was a little more, a little wilder, westish sort of atmosphere here. When I was a kid, so they say that Jerry Springer was the first reality TV show ever created, and I disagree with that, because if you took your box and you slid it over to Channel 3 on a Tuesday night, you could watch the Lake Elsinore City Council meetings. And you would see all sorts of colorful language and very interesting interactions between our elected officials at the time. It was very interesting, and it was a smaller town back then too. It was only like 19,000 residents, so everybody really did know everybody, and so that was very interesting. That carried on through for a couple of decades, and one of the goals that I had was to offer a more professional atmosphere, something that was a little more sophisticated. And, when you grow up in a place like this, you're kind of groomed for certain things. Mine was leadership. And, you feel like you owe it to the teachers, the coaches, the parents, all these people that pour all of these good things and time and effort into your life. Right. You want to pay that back. You want to go ahead and repay that in some way, shape, or form. And this was kind of what I was born for.
So one of the biggest questions, too, that I have, and I know several politicians, but I can't call them a friend. I call you a friend because I've been working with you before I even worked here at
Yeah.
the city. The question I want to ask, and this is probably a question everybody has, what's the difference between leadership and politics?
Leadership is doing things that are hard to do, but they're the right thing to do sometimes. And politics is where you have to make compromises in some of that in order to get progress.
Gotcha.
So that's the best way I could go ahead and see it. Sometimes what you see as the right way to move forward is not always what everybody feels is the right way to move forward. So you have to be realistic and with respect to accomplishments and achievements and how that's implemented.
And that holds true. I've seen you at the best time of Elsinore and sometimes at the worst times of Elsinore, covering news. You did, several of events we don't want to talk about, but but we do because there were headlines nationally and worldwide.
Right.
I got to see that individual of the politician, but then the person that focused more about the community and made sure that the community was in the right direction during the hardest of its times. How difficult was that for you, trying to maneuver politics and community at that same time?
It was challenging. There's diverse interests and concerns,
100%.
especially when it comes to significant major events. Everybody has an opinion about that. Everybody wants information at one time. There's a lot of moving parts in terms of what's happening behind the scenes with city staff and whatnot. You can't always get updates immediately, so there's sometimes a gap between an event and actually getting that information. And so really when you get into that situation as say a mayor, which is kind of the figurehead of a city, you do your best to go ahead and just convey information as quickly as possible, and then delegate and assign and make sure that the folks that are in charge, that are experts in certain things, these guys are the guys that are kind of like on the front lines. They're directing traffic in that areas, and you have to trust them to go ahead and do the job well. And then as far as the residents are concerned, there's a lot of people who have opinions. We got 73,000 bosses out there. They have 73 different colors and variations of what they'd like to see done. And the bottom line is that you have to kind of distill all of that into a course of action that works for as many people as humanly possible.
And taking the opportunity right now, Jason, you were a big portion of the emergency management at that time too, mitigating during the poppies, the fires, the floods, the fish dives, through all that. Working alongside council, I'm sure there's also some, things we have to maneuver. One of them is probably going to be, how do we get the right information out to the community? Tell me about your obstacles and things that you had to face during those times.
I think the most challenging part of the Holy Fire, if I could just use that as an example, was getting the information out of U.S. Forest, where the fire originated, and their policy of just letting things kind of try and burn themselves out, but it was heading towards our city. And so we're actually very blessed here in the city to have great partners, and CAL FIRE and their leadership at Riverside County Fire Department stepped in, and a lot of those guys actually take on statewide responses to fires and events. And we had the best of the best here, and they deployed half of the fire trucks from the entire county here to Lake Elsinore. And we didn't lose one structure. They held the fire back and really protected the community. So, in one sense, the information was slow coming out, and we had to create our own message, and we had to deploy people. And frankly, we had the best leadership we could have at the county that really stepped in and helped provide that framework for us. And even so, they actually took me up there with them so I could, help get the message out directly and let the council know what we're doing, and the community and our staff. So I would just say it's the information flow is a challenge, but some of it is you see something coming, you got to act when someone else isn't.
And I think it's safe to say that the city of Lake Elsinore is very proactive on acting instead of kind of waiting and to see what the response is from everyone else. we've been proactive throughout the poppies. We've been proactive throughout our, just in general, our lake, everything. That brings us up to the next point, reflecting on what Elsinore was then and now, especially since you've been here for a very, I wouldn't say as long as Kim, but
Nowhere near as long as Kim. I mean, really just a fraction of the amount of time that Kim has been here. The then and now. You
Good thing I'm still standing.
So the whole thing
You could
is
be president. I mean, really,
Where's my teleprompter when I need it?
we'll be able to get a chance to get those jobs back. Don't worry.
They're coming.
So Steve, at the end of the day, and this can go alongside you, with what I'm going to ask you, the then and now. Okay, you were here when you arrived to Elsinore. You're talking about 19,000 residents. About now we're about over 71,000. That's a big jump. Mm-hmm. The then and now. Tell me about the then and now. What has changed dramatically? Some people say, well, it really hasn't changed, but I think it has.
No, it's changed a lot, and the I'll leave Kim to go and kind of talk about some of the longer history. I was very young when we came, but what I do remember is mostly.
So you're throwing it to him?
No.
He was very young. Okay, you see where this is going?
But understand, like when we moved here, I'm 10. I'm not driving. I'm not going other places. I'm not going to restaurants. I'm not. I'm not doing the same things back in 1987 that an adult would be able to do. So, and Kim's not nearly as old as that we're making him sound out to be. He would. He have a better perspective as far as like dirt roads and where there was a shop, and these are the things that would relate really well. From what I remember is just most of my memories start picking up like late 80s, early 90s, and what I remember is dealing with school and school issues. I remember, I remember when they had the LA riots, right? Like I remember there being very strong divisions between races. I remember there being LA street gangs. I remember there being murders, and I remember that's the stuff that kind of stuck out to me. It was a much more dangerous city today, and my predecessors on the city council had dealt with that through the late 90s, the early 2000s. I think the crime bill helped a lot. I think that way that the state dealt with and the federal government dealt with outlawing methamphetamine production and restricting, getting involved in restricting the type of ingredients that would be available for that, had a huge impact on this community. So that when I get involved finally, in 2012, I come on, onto the council. Now what I'm doing is I'm focused on rebuilding mostly in terms of economic development, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of lake management, in terms of park management. These are different problems than, preventing dead bodies from being dumped, on some of our dirt roads, we deal with illegal dumping, but it was a different type of illegal dumping that was happening back then. And that's what I recall. It was a small community, but it was also a waypoint in the middle of nowhere that people could do bad things. And so I'll leave it to Kim to talk about the good stuff, but that's what I remember.
Yeah, so the dirt roads and stuff like that.
One stop sign.
Stop sign.
All those, the first signal, the first McDonald's.
Like the Circle K was the biggest thing that had happened in '86. Like we came in and people were like, "Have you been to the Circle K?" And I'm all like, "Not Circle K, Kmart." It was Kmart, the big Kmart, and I was like, "No," because it wasn't cool to go to Kmart back then. I've never seen Kmart. I have no idea what you're talking about.
And then Walmart came in and ran Kmart out of town.
Right.
And that's just kind of things that happen in a small town environment. So I move out here in 1990, 20,000 residents. First phone calls from my mom and said, excuse my French, but where the hell did you move my grandkids, I mean, it's Lakeland Village and all the baggage that came with the issues in Lakeland Village, which isn't our brand. And so it really, the history of Lake Elsinore is somewhat polluted relative to the surroundings of the communities around us that we control that are in the county, right? So the first thing was we have to present a professional environment for the community. So probably for the first 15 years, no one ever saw me without a suit. I think they thought I planted flowers and mowed the lawn in a suit, because my issue was we are just as professional as anybody else. I'm a transplant from Orange County. You are too, but we can hang with you just as well. City Council didn't help at that time because, yes, we were the Jerry Springer of Tuesday night. And if you wanted to have a good laugh, you watch the City Council meeting and see which of the council members got arrested or taken away because they brandished a weapon on their colleague. So not good times.
Oh, yeah. That was real.
The issue for us was really developing a strategy around economic development with principles. And the principles really talked about rebranding the city. So we have the beautiful new logo. We talked about our new tagline. We talked about going to ICS and having a presence, which we've done for, over a decade and a half, to develop those relationships with the industry and bring them back. And it's been a very heavy lift. I've been doing it for 20 years, not since Washington. So a Popeyes took me from the original conversation to actually getting them here in town was 9 years and 4 different representatives.
And people have no idea.
4 representatives.
they think
Tractor Supplies and Raising Cane's and Chick-fil-A's do not come overnight. Now, you can hang the noose around me. I'm the guy that 12 years ago said we needed a car wash. I didn't say 80 of them. I just said we need a car wash. And then everybody suddenly got in the queue in the last 3 or 4 years. But those things related to other relationships, and that's how we got Dutch Bros, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll probably end up with 4 or 5 Dutch Bros, which I think is a great thing.
People
versus car wash.
People even say we have.
They'll be spread out.
Yeah.
People say we even have 2 car washes per resident here. So there's 2 people per.
That's not even true, though.
No, it's not true.
Well, I know, but
and we still have a lot of dirt lots, so we need to clean our cars. I think it's a good thing.
I say a car wash for every family.
There you go. I can see it already. But they're Manos wash.
But remember, car washes are much more water efficient, so we're recycling the water. So it's eco-friendly. So we'll stick with that. How's that?
Well, we can actually bring in a wash like the Friday, the movie The Wash. That would be
car
a big
wash.
hit, right? The car
big
wash.
hit. Big.
Bring in, bring in Ice Cube and all his good friends over. No?
Well. Yeah, that might lead to other things.
Great concert, that's for sure.
Debo! Oh,
yeah, that's right. But, Kim, so you get here. I'm sure a lot of the community is still not well developed as it is now.
Correct.
The perception was always, Elsinore, not a place I want to live. But that changed dramatically, and you guys all can agree, because recently we were named, top 5, fastest growing cities. I'm going to ask Jason, when you find out about, being recognized nationally, that is a big accomplishment, because knowing that the city had to come from nothing to what it is now is probably, I would say it's prideful, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing is we've sustained a level of development every year, even through when the rest of the country really went in a downturn. We kind of went through that, like back in 2008 and 9, and it's the building kept happening, and I think everyone was seeing that, this is a great place to come and put your stake down and build your family, and the burden there is to make sure that the infrastructure's there or improvements are there.
Right.
And I think over the last 5-6 years, we've really taken an approach of reinvesting in a lot of our older areas, starting with simple things like asphalt repair, redoing streets, putting curb, gutter, and sidewalk in where there never was. Those are huge accomplishments. So, just investing in key areas to help stimulate further development and growth.
So development comes into key, but we have a beautiful stadium that also comes in 10 years ago, right? About 10 years ago?
About 30 years.
30 years ago.
30
now.
years
Longer
ago.
than that,
Yeah.
See, you're still okay. 30
Along
years.
with the Palm Springs Angels, yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
that's very true.
Yeah.
First graduation that was held there was in 1994. That was the year that I graduated.
So people actually say there was football games there too, right?
Yeah, high school.
The
football.
classic.
Yeah.
Temescal Canyon. Yeah, we didn't have a football field to play on, so we would play Elsinore High School there. Yeah.
So 30 years ago, that comes in. Is that a game changer for the community?
It's a huge game changer because now we're associated with Major League Baseball, right? So now we have a connection to the Angels teams, and eventually it ends up being the Padres. But again, another level of professional development. And one of the things that the city's done recently, besides the stadium, is the millions of dollars investment in infrastructure. Corporate America is paying attention to us. Are you investing in yourself, or are you expecting us to do everything for you? Mm-hmm. And so Jason, with his guru-ness in the finances, has been able to move around pockets of money and get a Rosetta Canyon, right? Which puts us on the map with collegiate softball. You do Launch Point. Launch Point was a massive success in the middle of COVID, right? Everybody's locked in. Well, hey, there's this beautiful place for me to go out and be outdoors and be able to breathe and act sort of normal in this trying times. And those things really made a difference. That stadium made that difference at that point in time of putting us on the map.
Now, we get into the portion of people say, oh, well, Elsinore, like I mentioned before, it doesn't grow. It's not going anywhere. What do you tell those people? I mean, you three have been here, and you know, the perception is, well, it's growing slower than Temecula, than Menifee. They're younger cities. And that's a question that's frequently asked. But they don't have a stadium.
Right.
They don't have
a lake.
They don't have a lake.
Right. You go to Menifee, for instance, they're growing quickly too. People often compare the two, you know, but they don't have a movie theater. You know what I mean? They don't. There's not a Lowe's, or you know, there's things that they're missing that we have,
right? And
there's things that they have that we don't have, right? And you just have to recognize that, you know, it's great. Temecula's great. I love Temecula. I love Marietta. I love Wildemar's its own unique thing, and I love that too. And Corona and Canyon Lake, and these are all different communities.
Correct.
And it's not to say that one is the better than the other. They're just different. They're going to develop out differently. And one of the things that people have to be mindful of is that, yes, we're probably, you know, because of our location between the San Diego border and Pachanga, which is an economic powerhouse in its own right, and say like Corona and the, you know, the 15 and the 91 freeway, which provides, you know, two different modes of travel and traffic, which is, you know, really kind of, you know, help them along. You know, they're kind of like the passageway from the ports. You know, we're kind of in the middle of that, and there's a lot of conserved land, so there's not as much density as it is here as other places, and that makes development and having some of those amenities difficult, because you don't have the nexus to overcome certain barriers that these corporations have in order to go ahead and measure whether or not they're going to go ahead and bring it in. But it's also going to make us the last place that they invest, which means that 20, 30 years from now, we're going to be the most highly developed, the best developed, the newest development, the newest amenities. We're going to have beautiful vistas. We're going to have conserved space, so it's not all just one big gray city. We're going to have the lake in the middle of all of that, and we're going to have phenomenal opportunities to improve infrastructure, widen things that other cities, they're done. Temecula's done. Marietta's got space to grow. Menifee has space to grow, but they're further east, you know, right. So they're off the path. Canyon Lake, fully developed. They're not going to develop anymore. And so, you know, we have some opportunities, especially down the line, that we'll get to. And it'll happen slowly, almost imperceptibly.
100%,
you know? It's one handshake, one deal at a time, and people don't get that. They want instant gratification.
But it's also been very consistent. I mean, we've had 20 years of development, including the 2008 downturn in COVID. And COVID was a great example of TriPoint building a product on Riverside Drive in 3 phases. In the middle of COVID, they pulled all 3 phases and made it 1 phase and sold out when it wasn't supposed to be possible. But the difference with Lake Elsinore is we have history and we have historic buildings. Mm-hmm. We have a historic downtown area. We have the chimes from 1887, which is a year older than cityhood. We have the Santa Fe train station that we're in from 1896. The city didn't have a bunch of dirt fields. Temecula was dirt. Menifee was dirt. Marietta was dirt. So you can build 100,000 residents very quickly when all you have to do is scrape earth and put sticks up. much different when you have the dynamic of an existing historic downtown and working within that framework. The topography of our area is different. So Canyon Hills is different than a Tuscany. It's different than a Rosetta, than the North Point. And then, of course, Lord help you if you're developing anywhere near the lake and all the agencies that you have to attempt to go over the hurdles relative to touching the lake or portions of the lake to develop. So a much more complex build.
But even though it's been difficult to deal with, everything that involves developing around the lake, we've been very successful. We have Launch Point. Tell us a little bit about that.
Launch Point was an investment in the community that cities don't typically do, but it was a property back in the early 90s that the state of California gave us with no money and then limited the amount for a launch fee. Here you go, take care of it. And it was very, very rough. But about 6 years ago, we reopened, and we probably made $0 to $25,000 a year off of it. Now it's generating over $4 million a year in revenue, and we have a positive cash flow of $700,000 to $800,000. That we were looking for a creative way to offset our recharge water costs into the lake off the general fund. So in order to, keep the city growing and making it stronger, we had to find a way to activate that property, which was about 80 acres, and 55 of it was kind of already scraped. It gave a great footprint for us to go with, and we came up with a plan, and the city council got behind it, and it's become a huge attraction. It generates over 240,000 visitors a year to that location. It has ability to grow. It's essentially sold out from late March through end of October into November now on the weekends, and during the summer all week long. It's really been a great catalyst project for that side of the lake, and it has stimulated interest in private money coming in and investing along Riverside Drive and a lot of the properties. There's some open space there that can have some fill-in. So it's been a great investment.
And it's become a staple of the community. It's now also home of our well-attended Live at the Lakefront. That shows that people are coming there because not only of the amenities, but also because of the, things we're implementing there, which, provides a want for people to want to attend and in interest, if you will. With that, that'll take us into our next topic. The next topic.
Before we move on, I have to say something.
Yeah.
Is that Jason basically ran that project. I mean, this was essentially before he became city manager. He was assistant city manager that he was working on that project, and he found a way to go ahead and get the funding done. He found he managed the people that actually managed the project, and we were able to go ahead and do that at such a cost-effective level. I mean, if you see the A-frame building that's out there, cities don't do that stuff anymore. I mean, it's architecturally beautiful. If you see the way that place is managed, no city manages that. You know what I mean? Go to the DMV, find out for yourself. Okay. So it's like that's not government
That's very
service,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Like this is a resort, literally, and the whole process was tenuous. It was a very controversial thing, to go ahead and borrow that kind of money, and so without him being involved, that project doesn't happen because then I as a leader, I don't have the confidence to move forward with a project like that unless somebody like Jason was working on it.
So let's
Kudos to
go
you.
back to that definition of politics and my answer,
Yeah.
because in my case with my board, I have to count to 4. In this case, with the city council, you have to count to 3. And back to that process of investing in the community, it was can you get at least to 3 votes, if not 4, if not all 5, and that determination and process was all your general contractor was Jason Simpson.
Yeah.
And saved the city a fortune and has now created a engine of attraction from an economic development standpoint.
Wow. Now, this will take us into our final segment, and it's the 2040 plan. the 2040 plan, what does that mean to us? What does that mean to the community? What are the aspirations and the vision for it? Now, we know here within the community and staff, it's where we want to be when we grow up, pretty much, if you will. Jason, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll go around the table. 2040 plan.
Yeah, the 2040 plan is essentially a strategic plan for staff. It has a set of aspirations of what the stakeholders had determined, which included the council and a lot of the folks in the community, on what would they like to see in the year 2040 here, and what do we need to start working on to get there. And it further broke it down into really kind of three areas. Our downtown is one area, the lake itself, and then also action sports. And so those three together, builds a kind of a framework, and a lot of things flow off of that. The staff works on. That's how our budget is built in terms of operationally and capital. Where we focus money to make those goals happen. But it's really more of a framework, a guide, so to speak, to hang your hat on and follow it to help ensure that by 2040 that we've accomplished that.
And most of this, Steve, you look at the 2040 plan, and I mean, you've been here since it was starting to be created and implemented. Tell me, as leader, council member, as mayor, going up the ranks here, implementing it and making sure that vision stays on track, not only just with staff, but with council eyes, under the council eyes. How do you guys manage that? How do you guys make sure that stays on track?
Well, whether you're working through a company, or whether whether it's a government organization, or no matter what type of organization, this could be nonprofits or whatnot. The very first thing you need to have is a vision for what you're trying to accomplish. What's the purpose of the organization? If you don't know that, then you're just not going to be successful. And I can tell you that we had a changeover to the council when I first got elected. It was both me and Natasha Johnson came on to the council at the same time, and it really was kind of a shift for the city to be able to go ahead and be more professional. And one of the very first things we did is on a rainy day, we had a public hearing, and it was a visioning session, and we talked about what we were trying to accomplish as 5 council members. And it was amazing to be able to go ahead and have that type of visioning session in the rain over by the lake and talk about what we'd like to see and come together with a statement, just a statement that really encapsulates what it is that we want to go ahead and do as a city. The 2040 plan tears off of that. It takes the vision and it actually turns it into tangible steps, because just like having a goal and a date to go ahead and accomplish that goal, if you don't start putting together the action plan, you're never gonna. It's a wish, it's a dream, right?
Pie in the sky.
Pie in the sky, right? So we have to have a plan and then communicate that plan, not just to the residents, but to the world. If we want to attract all these businesses and whatnot, Kim can tell you, says, what is that going to look like in 10, 15 years? Well, the council today is telling you this is what it's going to look like. And if your vision, your company's vision, or if your vision as a resident or vision as a nonprofit, it matches our vision, welcome, come on in.
Right.
And so now we're taking the next step in that whole thing, and we're applying the 2040 plan to the general plan, which is the big document that manages all the land uses. And we're going to shift that so that way everybody knows this is what's possible. This is where it's possible. And welcome, come on in, sit down. If you want something different, maybe it's a different place is a better place for you, because the residents here don't want that. People should be paying attention to that process. So that's what it means. It's just an action plan, and it's something that takes vision and turns it into reality.
Got it. And Kim,
So here's the old man's analogy. Do you like to go bowling? Right? So we'll go to pins and pockets. What happens when you have a small child? You put up the bumpers.
Right.
What is the 2040 plan? It's the bumpers. It's the process whereby the team,
I like
your
that
elected
analogy.
and your city manager, created a document that says, here's where we need to be. And all this other stuff that's out there and you'd like to have or want to have isn't fitting on that lane. So let's focus on the lane. And it is a vision for what do you want to be when you grow up. To Steve's point, we can't be everything to everybody else. Do you want to skydive in a beautiful environment with a lake and mountains? Great. Do you want to go see scorched earth? Then go to Paris. But we're about beauty here, right? So we're about developing the beauty. And the other thing that I think the document laid out for the future is we are really a very close-knit community with no guardrails from the standpoint of anybody can talk to anybody. And this group of individuals, including our city manager, is 100% approachable by anybody in the community. There's no guards, rails, handlers. If you want to ask a question, go ask the mayor a question. And if we can keep that through 2040, it'll be a massive home run for the corridor.
Now, for Chamberlain, as we know it, celebrating 75 years tomorrow.
Yes. No, I wasn't there.
For Chamberlain, now you come in, become the chamber president. You know about this whole 2040 plan, but then we have a motto, if you will. Dream Extreme.
Dream Extreme.
We see it everywhere. It's branded. That's our brand. Dream Extreme. How do we implement the Dream Extreme and make our community believe in that Dream Extreme? What does it mean to them?
Well, the 2040 plan defines things for everybody to do. So now that I'm on the senior scale of things, it might be a nice pedestrian or a nice bench to Dream Extreme. So you vision the skydivers coming down instead of doing it because my bones are brittle. But at the end of the day, Dream Extreme was really, when we developed the panel and suggested that tagline along with the new logo to the city, it was a large, broad-based set of individuals from the community that talked about what sets Lake Elsinore apart. And nobody else in this entire triangle can claim that. Absolutely. So it's our claim to the future.
And I believe we do hold the Dream Extreme motto to the highest. We do think outside the box here a lot. You can see it within the projects and the community development spectrum. You see it with our city manager and the infrastructure and the leadership. Council. Now, council is a united front, which makes this process even easier for all of us to execute. Dream Extreme, some people are, kind of iffy about the Dream Extreme, but I will tell you, they have to really live here, and the motto is live, work, and play here, right?
Yeah.
As cliche as it may sound, it's true. We can live here, literally go down the road, and go to a baseball stadium, go to a concert, go and fish, boat on the lake, and have great amenities. I mean, we're spoiled, wouldn't you say?
I'd say so. I mean, if we got snow regularly, then we could go snow skiing. And
There you
then it'd be. I mean, there's nothing you wouldn't have here, honestly. But there's some great opportunities all over and all around the city, and I would also add that we've changed it over the past few years, especially in the last 12 years, because this is where I really start paying attention. We've opened up a lot of different areas. Let's take Main Street, for instance. Okay, so Main Street, multi-project renovation, streets, sidewalks, music, lighting,
City
events. City Hall now is underway. We've gone and done the economic development side to go ahead and attract restaurants. In 2012, there were 2 restaurants that existed on this road. That was it. They were all shut down, and we had a lot of antique stores to a certain extent, but basically longtime owners who were just trying to go ahead and use the fronts so that it didn't look empty. That has changed dramatically, absolutely dramatically. We built the parking lot across the street. We renovated the cultural center. We did earthquake retrofit on City Hall. We changed the interior of City Hall so that it looked like a more professional setting. It's all these little things that most people, your common resident's going to go ahead and go to work and then come home and, try to spend some time with their family. And so they're not going to see all of this happening all at once.
Right.
And it didn't happen all at once. It happened little by little. So, these are the things that encourage things. And now you'll go down Main Street and people have gone down Main Street, especially like during Christmas, and be very proud to be a proponent for decorating down Christmas, and investing in that a little by little every year and making it bigger and better. This last time, just, oh my gosh, touched my heart. This is the music and the lights and the people walking up and down the street and the sense of safety that people feel. It's just
100%.
180 degrees different than what it was 2 decades ago. No question about it.
No, and before we close it off, I want to say too, people don't see, residents really don't see, the downtown as an event venue, but it's become one because we host the biggest parade here in this area right now. It's the Christmas parade. Over 12,000, 12,000 people attend. Great partnership with the district and its students, and we host Taco Fest down here, the classic car shows. It's really becoming a venue space that attracts boots on the ground, if you will. The DMA has been very influential. For those that don't understand the acronym for the DMA, it's the Downtown Merchants Association, who we partner with when we do this. But that holds true. Part of the aspirations and goals for the 2040 plan is to activate downtown, right, to make sure that the businesses are successful and that residents and the community around us come in here. So before we close it off, let's kind of go over the talking points we had. I great conversation. I had a great time going over this. Gentlemen, anything you guys want to add before we close it off? One at a time, please. One at a time.
I think you covered a lot of ground today. I think one of the things, one of the demographic changes that I noticed last 4 years is, our average age of a resident has gone from 34 to 30. So we do have a younger population. And maybe it's a little lower if,
I move out.
if Kim
I
moves
move
out.
on.
The community is always changing, and we just need to be aware of that and innovative and responding to that.
I think to that, and also our median household income's increasing. We're starting to see folks that weren't interested in Lake Elsinore before starting to become interested in terms of businesses and development. So that's going to be impressive. And I think for future podcasts, it'd be great to go ahead and kind of go over what's coming, because I think people would be excited and impressed to see. Sometimes it feels like it's all car washes, and I can understand that perspective and whatnot. It's also a different perspective to go ahead and say sometimes these are entitlement projects, and they're an investment in improving land for resale, and they don't necessarily mean that a car wash is coming. Yeah. We've seen other projects, that were entitled and maybe even broke ground that didn't come because of various reasons. Well, we have other partners who are looking to come into the area that I think are more highly sought, and it takes years, especially in this economic environment where lending is tough and the interest rates have gone up. It's coming though, slowly but surely. It's starting to go ahead. The plan's working, and it takes a generation to evolve a community from one place and move it up the ladder.
Oh, 100%. Sir.
Because I'm the historian here, I'm gonna go back to the 1800s. I've always been.
Chair?
I know.
Yeah,
No, we need a rocking chair for Kim.
Well, not yet. But I go back to growing up in Orange County and came out here, and the Irvine Company was very successful in demolishing any wood facility or stuccoing it, and the fact that we still have imagery and buildings from the late 1800s that are still in the same shape that they were from them is pretty phenomenal. So I'm also embrace your history. I just had a conversation yesterday with Rob Johnson, the city manager out in San Jacinto, who says, I think you guys got us by a couple days on incorporation from 1888. And I said, yeah, we are older than you. There is some sense of history here that I think we need to encourage our residents to understand the roots and how we've moved those roots forward into the future.
Giovanni, the city of Lake Elsinore incorporated before Riverside County, the county, had even been created. Yeah, we were originally incorporated and part of San Diego County.
So maybe we should move and say it's the county of Lake Elsinore instead of
No. But I'm sure there was a discussion at some point because Riverside and Lake Elsinore were the only two incorporated cities that were probably viable in terms of being the seat of the county. There was probably discussion back then. This is late 1800s, right around when Kim was born, where that was probably a discussion. He can probably speak to that.
No, and you know what? Over to the people on TV land, continue following us with these podcasts. Totally, information that you want to know about and that you need to know about. Moving forward, we're going to have a segment of this podcast every month. We're going to present to you everything that you want to know about. Part of that is also making sure that we feature the importance of what the council is doing, what the city is doing, and not just what is on social media that is being reported. Remember, the facts will be done here, and you can ask us any questions, and also reach out to us via the media team at lake-elsinore.org. Send us your request, and anything you want to know about, we will address it here on Open Mic.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Great show.
All right, great show,
everybody.
guys. Thank you so
everybody
much.
for coming aboard. Appreciate it.
Mayor, thank you for the time, and stay tuned. We will have another segment in the next month with more information that you need to know about and that you want to know about. Again, thank you for joining us. I'm Giovanni Rivera Huerta. This is Mayor Steve Manos on behalf of City Manager Jason Simpson and our oldest resident here in Lake Elsinore.
Poor Kim. I feel bad for Kim, man.
It's all right. He's a good sport.
I don't feel bad for me.
All right, stay tuned. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.